All right. Welcome to the Week 3 recap edition of the Lewis and Laraib podcast, brought to you by your host, Lewis and Laraib. Great slate of games last weekend, a lot of different matchups. Really exciting to get into some of these, analyze it, talk about what we feel like going into the next week and to the rest of the season. A lot of big pivotal matchups and things that could play a big role further down into the season.
Yeah, you can see the playoff picture starting to come in a little bit. A couple 3-0 teams, couple 0-3 teams, a little bit surprising. But let's jump into our picks that we had from last week. Let me share my screen. Right, so here we go. So Lewis and I, once again, tied this week, 11-11. So he still has that 1 week, or he still has that 1 week over me for the Canes. So let's talk about our picks a little bit. You locked for Cleveland, and they won, so that's +2 for you. I had my lock as Indianapolis +2 for me. And then, one of the most surprising games of the weekend is Detroit goes into Arizona and beats Kyler Murray after he throws, 3 interceptions?
Yep,
So you
3
get +2
interceptions.
for that Detroit upset. And then I had Kansas City as my last second upset. Actually, I just picked that random, and I just got lucky. Kansas City, destroys Baltimore Monday night, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Or you know what? Let's hop into that right now, Lewis, and we'll move into our overreaction segment. Why don't you start us off?
Real quick. When it comes to the picks, for all my Tampa fans out there who are watching this, if any, I hope there are some, because I've been pretty critical of the team. I'm sorry. I'm never gonna pick against you in that situation again. I'm never picking Denver in that situation again. I was just kind of Brady hating, so you got to take that out on me. I apologize. Y'all are a much better team. I will give you your love in a later episode. But my first overreaction has to do with the two juggernauts in the AFC, and it is Mahomes has no rivals at the quarterback position. It is Mahomes one, and the rest of the quarterbacks, there's a gap. Mahomes, gap, and probably another gap, and then the rest of the quarterbacks in the league. Mahomes has just proven that time and time again against a really good scoring defense, especially with Baltimore, he has no rivals. And the biggest matchup going into this entire week and probably into the entire season was the two young quarterbacks of Lamar and Mahomes and how they were going back to back. And you just saw in this game just shined a lot better than the other. Every single time they play, it's just Mahomes is on a different level. And it might have to do with just he knows Baltimore schemes. The defensive coordinator said in a interview earlier this week that Mahomes is underpaid. He should be a billionaire quarterback, which I agree with, quite frankly. But with the Andy Reid offense and how he just puts Mahomes in positions to win, and Mahomes just comes with play after play after play. It's so demoralizing for a defense watching him just rip apart all third and longs. He'll get out of the pocket, and you're like, you know what, we have everything should be covered, and then he runs for 12 yards for a first down. Or he'll just rip out, you're down 7 points, and he'll just rip a 60-yard bomb to Mecole Hardman and just, pull the heart out of your team right then and right there. His performance on Monday night solidified he is the best quarterback in the league. All these other early season storylines are cute. Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, they're all cute. But Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. He's probably not the MVP this season. Saying I still like Russ as the MVP favorite, at least for now. But Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. He has no rival.
Yeah, definitely an overreaction. That Chiefs offense, it's crazy to have Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator. We all know what type of player what type of coach he is. It could be a head coach in this league. To surprise of many, he still doesn't have one of those jobs yet. But Patrick Mahomes, you talk about all the weapons he has on that offense. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman. And then on the offensive line, Eric Fisher, a whole bunch of all first-round selections on the
Eric
offensive
Fisher,
line.
the receiving threat.
Yeah, you
Big
know what? He had more fantasy points than Mark Andrews last night. So, yeah. But we talk about that Chiefs offense, studs all across the board. And you know what? I'll agree with you. Patrick Mahomes, he is probably the best quarterback in the league. that whole offense, when you see it put together, is just unstoppable. You see the running backs that they have, the receiving core, the offensive line, everything put together, and Eric Bieniemy at the helm. They're just unstoppable. And Patrick Mahomes, he just brings them up to another level. His decision making, his playmaking on the field, off the field. He's a total package, and maybe you know what, he is a worth $1 billion. But I have to agree with you. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL.
I
But
just
Russ is
I
a
want to
close
give
second.
what's that?
Russell Wilson, he's catching up. If they keep on letting him cook, maybe he takes over that number one spot later in the season.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's my MVP right now, but Mahomes, just credit to the Chiefs front offense or their front office and what they've done to put talent around Mahomes and that offensive line, just giving them enough protection, bringing in Edwards-Helaire for the season, star running back already, and then just the receiving threats around him perfectly complement what Andy Reid and Mahomes want to do offensively. And against the best scoring defense in all of football the last 2 years, he made them look childish. Also, I want to say this Ravens defense, I think, will be better. But whenever you're facing this Chiefs offense, they looked slow. I mean, their cornerbacks are very greedy and they like to jump on routes and look in the backfield. But against a quarterback like Mahomes, where he can burn you over the top, and that offensive line gives enough protection to block all these zone blitzes and man blitzes, he's going to beat you over the top and make you look silly. I think there were a few bad plays and misreads from Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters in this game that caused them deep. And I think they're going to look at the film and understand what they need to do. Because we've seen defenses be effective against this potent Chiefs offense. I mean, they haven't always beaten Patrick Mahomes, but he has been, limited before. You need to get pressure with your front four and allow the 7 other guys to go back in coverage and have one guy roaming just to make sure he doesn't get out of the pocket, contain him in the pocket, get pressure with your front four, and then have decent coverage on the back end just to make it a tougher time for those receivers to get behind you and on the sidelines for Mahomes to just dissect you. So I think the Ravens defense will come out improved in a future game, but Mahomes will do Mahomes things, and then it's going to be on that Ravens offense.
Oh, what you're saying is a lot easier said than done. You're talking about how they can take you over the top with, Tyreek Hill, killer speed, and then Travis Kelce, he can hit you on those short and intermediate routes. So you have to be able to guard on all 3 levels, flats in the mid and on the back half of the secondary. They all need to be really stellar and, know their assignments whenever you're going against this Chiefs defense. So a lot of mistakes by the Ravens last night, but nothing that they can't overcome against Patrick Mahomes maybe in the playoffs.
You think no Earl Thomas was a thing, affected the Ravens defense last night?
Yeah, it definitely did. You saw, Marlon Humphreys and Marcus Peters, they both got burnt way back there in that secondary. Jimmy Smith was trying his best, but how many times we saw, what is it, Mecole Hardman or Demarcus Robinson? Someone goes for, a long touchdown. You don't know what hits you. But definitely they're missing Earl Thomas, but it's nothing that they can't overcome with, how we know this Baltimore defense to be with John Harbaugh.
Yeah, we fully expect this Ravens team to come back, and we're anticipating these teams will play each other later down the road. But we'll get to that later. Moving on to your first overreaction
my first overreaction is the Buffalo Bills will win the AFC and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. The Bills 3-0, Josh Allen putting together, a little quiet MVP season right here. Really improved his accuracy over the past over the offseason, as we talked about earlier. They got Stephon Diggs, a deep threat for Josh Allen to hit. And we know about their running backs and Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, who they drafted this year. And that defense, they had a big lead in this game, and they held the Rams and looked like the game was going to be early. It was going to be over early. But the Rams clawed back, and they scored 32. But Josh Allen, he is a top quarterback in this league now, and people need to put some respect on his name. You look at him, he can launch the ball deep, but he's also a dual-threat quarterback on the ground. Everyone talks about Lamar Jackson, how he can, you see him juking out defenders left and right. But Josh Allen had more rushing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson last season. So, this is a complete team on all 3 levels of their defense. You see Ed Oliver on the defensive line. Then on the linebackers, they have Tremaine Edwards along with There's one more,
Matt
Matt
Milano.
Milano, yeah,
Yeah.
and then on the back half that you see they have Micah Hyde and Tre'Davious White, so they have a defensive tandem that they can just go crazy on weekend, create a lot of turnovers, and then on the offensive side, like we were saying, Josh Allen, quiet MVP season. Sean McDermott, he's really worked with Josh Allen to get this offensive put together and a lot more cohesive, and they can drive down the field very easily, putting up 35 points. They lost. I mean, they were down, or they were up big, and then they blew the lead. But Josh Allen comes back and he scores late. With what is it, like 5 seconds left on the clock. So this team, they have heart, and they're not gonna go away easy, and they're gonna fight, and they're gonna take the AFC this year.
So this is absolutely an overreaction. First, I want to commend the Bills. I love the job that Sean McDermott has done this season. Obviously 3-0. But just taking a look at the schedule, it is literally a murderer's row of teams you're going to have to face. They play the Raiders next week. That can be a tough game. They've caused the Saints some trouble. And it was a closer game than people thought last week or on Sunday against the Patriots. Then they have the Titans. They have the Chiefs on a Thursday night. Obviously, they play the Jets and the Dolphins, so that's going to be 2 guaranteed wins. But they still have to play the Patriots twice, the Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers, Steelers, Patriots again. So all of those are going to test this team. And I think we have to wait. We have to pause the brakes because they beat 2 bad teams in the Jets and the Dolphins who just don't look great. The Dolphins are decent, but it was also only a 3-point game. And in this game against the Rams, they came out swinging. They looked great. And then the Rams just seemed to figure out their defense and just spread the ball out. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Darrell Henderson were just causing this defense a ton of problems. And quite frankly, if that pass interference was called on the Bills receiver on offensive pass interference, this game could be a whole different story. The Rams could come out and win this thing. We're talking about a 2-1 Bills team that's only beaten the Jets and the Dolphins. So, credit to this team for staying disciplined, but it is absolutely way too early. We have not seen enough from this team. They're too young. And I need to see more from Josh Allen and this Bills team going forward, especially in this next 3 weeks against the Raiders, Titans, and Chiefs, if we're going to crown them with anything. Because right now in the AFC, you have teams like the Ravens, even though they lost, they still have a great team. The Chiefs, who just look dominant, and the Steelers looking good. In the AFC South, you still have the Titans and Colts who have looked good. So I think it's way too early to win champs already, but I do like the direction this team's going in, but we're going to see.
You still need to see more out of Josh Allen. I have to disagree. We saw him miss a couple throws early on in the season, but 3-0, he's showing you can do it through the air. He can do it on the ground, and he's a fighter. He's going to bring this team all the way to the Super Bowl. But let's go into your second overreaction.
My second overreaction has to do with an NFC team, and that is the Green Bay Packers, who I believe are going to represent the NFC in this year's Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is finally going to have another chance to crack at the Super Bowl after being in the NFC Championship last year. This offense it's looking like the best offense in the NFL right now, even without Devontae Adams. Against a good Saints defense. They dropped 37 on Sunday against the Saints team after dropping 40-plus points in the last 2 games. Their offense is firing in all cylinders. When Devontae Adams comes back, it's going to be even more dynamic. Lazard looks like he's ready to have a breakout season. Valdez-Scantling is going to have a great season as well. And Aaron Jones is finally that running back that Aaron Rodgers needs in the running game and passing game that's going to affect the game in both levels. So they finally have a chance to where you've seen them in so many games where they get down and they have to pass their way out because whenever they get a lead, they can't run the ball. They have to pass and to go into 3-and-out situations, but they finally have a competent running back, and they've always had a good offensive line to keep these leads, chew the clock, keep the Saints off the field. You saw late in that Saints game on their last touchdown drive, they had the ball for 5 minutes, and they only gave the Saints, the Saints had to score 10 points in the span of 2 minutes because of how the Packers managed the clock. So with that running game and with this offense, they look deadly. The defense, you just see them making enough plays to win. Bend, don't break. Zadarius Smith looks like a beast. He made the game-changing play with the forced fumble on Taysom Hill. And I really like the direction this team's going in. Jair Alexander is a beast as corner. I don't love their run defense at all. I think, especially on that 50-yard play, Alvin Kamara touchdown, they could not tackle at all. And that was, Alvin Kamara, yeah, he's a great running back, but that shouldn't happen against any defense. So they need to work on that tackling. And, as the games go by, it's going to get colder, especially in Green Bay. You're not going to have a lot of explosive plays like that with just repeated missed tackles. So I definitely like this team going forward. And if they can get that first round bye and have, the NFC go through Lambeau Field, they have a path to the Super Bowl.
Definitely overreaction on your part. The combined record of all the teams that the Packers have played is 1-8. So you're talking about the Buffalo Bills. They haven't proven anything. Well, your Green Bay Packers haven't proven anything either.
We've seen Aaron Rodgers play before. Josh Allen has had 3 good games, and you're anointed.
You know what I've seen? I've seen the Packers go 13-3 and then get their ass handed to them by the 49ers twice in the same season. So that's what I've seen from Aaron Rodgers.
But who's the 49ers in the NFC this season?
The Seattle Seahawks.
With that defense? Okay, but go on.
Okay, yeah. This is definitely overreaction on your part. We're talking about this NFC is completely stacked. So to say any one team is already, a lock is already overreaction, from my part for the AFC, your part for the NFC. It's too early in the season. Teams are 3-0, but it's still an overreaction. Aaron Rodgers, I like what he's been doing. We really saw over this, over the draft last couple months, the Packers did not take a wide receiver early on like we thought they would, and instead they took a quarterback in Jordan Love. So Aaron Rodgers, he thought, they're going to draft a quarterback. Well, I'm going to show them why they still need me for the next couple seasons if this franchise is going to be a top 10 team in the league. So he goes out there, he's lighting it up against the Vikings, then he lights it up against the Detroit Lions, and then he just lit it up on Sunday night primetime against the Saints. But, the Saints, their defense has been suspect the last couple games. A lot of penalties against the Raiders, and then a lot of penalties Sunday night against the Packers. Mario Davis at costly offsides, when the Packers had the ball the last time in the fourth quarter. It was like a 3rd and long, and it was a third and 5, and he gets, he jumps offside. So this Saints defense has been suspect with the penalties, and I think that had a lot to do with why the Packers came out on top on Sunday night. But we're talking about the 2 Aarons on this Packers team, Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers. They're both, leading their position, and then you bring in Devontae Adams also for the wide receiver core. So this offense is looking great. And then on the defense side, like you were saying, there's Adrian Amos in the secondary, Jair Alexander, the Smith brothers. So they have another complete team again this year, and they're definitely going to be fighting for, a chance to go to the Super Bowl again this year. So look for the Packers to, go make a deep playoff run. I have to agree with you, but represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, we'll have to see.
I just want to say, their schedule going forward is very manageable. They have the Falcons next week on Monday night, and then they hit the bye week, and then they have the Buccaneers next week. But coming off a bye, Tom Brady and against Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers can be prepared to go into Tampa. That's going to be a really good game. But then they have Texans, Vikings, Jaguars. They have the 49ers in there, but who knows if Jimmy G's going to be back for that one. Colts, Bears, Eagles, Lions, Panthers, Titans, and Bears. A lot of these teams are not that impressive so far. The 49ers, Colts, and Bears are looking good, but not looking great, right? They all have holes on their teams. So I like this team getting a number 1 seed or number 2 seed. If they can get the number 1 seed, it's going to be very tough to beat them. But they're competing with Seattle, Tampa. I still think New Orleans has a shot going later into the season. But it's going to be a tough ride to the NFC. But, if it goes through Lambeau, I think they're pulling it out.
Well, you don't want to overreact because, like I said, 13-3 last season, and then you go to the NFC Championship and you just fall off the wagon. So
right, absolutely.
Yep. So let's move into my second overreaction, and this is a very big overreaction. At some point in this season, Jalen Hurts will take over the starting role for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, my gosh. Talk about it.
Oh, man. Can we talk about that game on Sunday afternoon? The Bengals go into Lincoln Financial Field in Carson Wentz, you are facing a beat-up Bengals defense that's not even half of what it used to be in the past couple of seasons, missing a lot of their key pieces. You know, the cornerback, that stud that they used to have, he's gone. They didn't draft any key pieces. Carlos Dunlap, back half of his career. So how are you telling me you're only scoring 23 points and rookie Joe Burrow is going to keep on pace with you and you tie this game? We saw them week 1 against the Washington football team. You get an early lead and then you lose. You don't score any more points after halftime, and then you lose that game to the football team. And then the Rams come in, and then once again you lose to a Rams team, and the defense allows 30-plus points, and you're on your ass the whole time. Carson Wentz can't get any help from anyone around you. So Jalen Hurts, they drafted him to be, Carson Wentz has a lot of injuries over his career. So maybe he gets injured through the season. I'm not saying anything, wishing anything bad happens to him. But he's having some poor performances, and maybe Jalen Hurts gets his starting role.
So the only situation in which Carson Wentz is not going to take the field as the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback is if he gets injured. And we've seen that in the past, so that's a legitimate option. But in no situation do I think they are going to bench their $125 million quarterback for a rookie in Jalen Hurts when they think they have a position to still win this division, which has not looked good whatsoever, definitely living up to the NFC least. I'm going to give Carson Wentz a break here. They have been the most injured team the last 2 years, far more injured than any team I've ever seen in my life. I mean, last game, Dallas Goedert, he's on IR, so he's going to be out for a while. Avante Maddox, Alshon side, Jalen Reagor, Deshaun Jackson, Rudy Ford. Along with the guys they've already had on the IR and Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson's in and out of the lineup. So he's dealing with so many interchanging pieces. Like last season as well, the receiving core was just gutted, and his best receiver was Greg Ward Jr., but he still found a way to lead them to the playoffs. But I will say this, and I'm going to agree with you in a sense, he has played horribly this season. I mean, the first week against a new Washington defense, you're down 2 offensive line, starting offensive linemen, all-pro offensive linemen, and you're just getting sacked out of everywhere. You blow a 17-point lead. Last week against the Rams, you're basically ran off the field by that Rams offense, and then Aaron Donald just causing havoc. But this week, you're going up against the Bengals, who, like you said, Carlos Dunlap, back half of his career, Geno Atkins, same situation with him. They're missing a lot of those defensive pieces they've had over the last decade. And going up against a rookie quarterback who, quite frankly, looked like the best quarterback in that game. For a rookie to go in and up against a $125 million quarterback. And just how Doug Peterson called the end of that game, it seemed like he didn't care if they tied or if they lost. He was playing so passive in overtime, just going for punts, and it was 4th and 3, and he elects to punt it when you're in a situation where it's like, let's win this thing. Come on now, Doug Peterson. What happened to the Super Bowl coach who was gutsy and goes for the Foles magic? And I think there is a lack of trust within that organization, within that front office. And this could be coming up soon, but Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, it seems like Doug Peterson wanted to keep Nick Foles around. A lot of the players like Nick Foles, even with Carson Wentz healthy. So there's definitely some red flags going in for the rest of the season with Carson Wentz on this team. But no, I don't think he'll be benched this season based off of performance. It'd have to get really, really ugly in order for that to happen. But they've invested way too much capital into this quarterback for them to give up on him after he's proven before that he can be a capable quarterback. So it is a little premature to make an overreaction like that.
Well, you're talking about how Carson Wentz, what we've seen out of him. So let's see it out of him again. You're talking about the injuries, I understand. But if you're a $100 million quarterback, you see what Dak's doing. He has a lot more pieces around him, but he's been doing good. Jared Goff, who got the same contract around as, same time as Carson Wentz, did around the same amount of money too. You see the pieces that, he had the 30th ranked offensive line last year, and you don't see him complaining. He still had a decent season. No one was talking about him getting benched. So Carson Wentz, I expect a lot out of him. And this schedule does not get any easier. Next 3 games at San Francisco, at Pittsburgh, and then home against the Ravens. So it's going to be a tough schedule for Carson Wentz. I fully expect this Eagles team to go down 0-5-1, and maybe they look to trade Carson Wentz after this horrible performance. A lot of teams are looking for a starting quarterback. Just a quick reminder: this segment is called Overreactions, so don't come at me too hard. But let's move into your last overreaction.
All right. So for my final overreaction is this Patriots team this season looks better than the Patriots team from last season that had Tom Brady as their starting quarterback. And here's why. Their first game, they didn't look too great offensively against the Dolphins. Came out, but they took care of business. Their running game looked good. In the second game, they go on the road to Seattle, and it just like Cam Newton has a great game. Almost 400 passing yards. It seems like he's had a great connection with all those skill players and connections that Tom Brady didn't even have. I mean, not including Julian Edelman, who obviously they had a great connection. But when you see players like first-round pick N'Keal Harry from last year, it already seems like him and Cam Newton are, clicking, and he's become a reliable target for Cam. And as Cam gets more and more integrated into this offense, I think the things you can do with Cam, and I love what McDaniels is doing with Cam and just using him as the run pass option in ways that he could never use Tom Brady. So that added element of just the running quarterback, getting out of the pocket, making plays, because they don't have great skill guys on the outside. Let's just be honest. That was the biggest knock on them last year, was that Tom Brady had no help. But now when you have an extra weapon in your quarterback who can create his own offense, including creating offense for others, getting out of the pocket, scramble drill, just making negative plays turn into positive plays, he's such a boost for this offense. And I just think the Patriot way has been just ingrained into him. And the former character issues, it seems like he's taking this season extremely seriously. And that talent, along with the discipline and maturity of this Patriots organization, is doing him wonders. And he's having one of the best seasons of his career. I mean, not as good as the 15-1 season so far, at least. But I'm projecting this team to definitely be a playoff team. Do they win the AFC East? We have to see them play against the Bills first to determine that. But you saw in that Raiders game on Sunday, the Patriots way is still ingrained into this franchise, in which you have a situation where the Raiders are driving down the field and it's 4th and 3. John Gruden, I don't know why, he said it's field goal time. They're down 10 points. They're down 9 points. Kick a field goal, and now they're down 6. In that situation, another team, they might go for it there. They might make the game a tie or like a 3-point game or 2-point game in that situation. But they go for 3, so it's a 6-point game. Then the Patriots go down the field methodically, get a great drive out of their quarterback and Cam Newton, and they get a touchdown on the drive. And then immediately on the next drive for the Raiders sack, fumble in the end zone. So what could have been a 3-point game for the Raiders going into the second half, it was a 17-point game at that point, and there was no coming back. So credit to the Patriots for just believing in their system, doing everything they need to do. And with this new weapon in Cam Newton, they're better than the team last year.
Yeah, you know what? This is an overreaction, but I will have to agree with you on this overreaction. Last year, all we saw was Tom Brady just complaining and complaining and complaining. I don't have any receivers. Who am I going to throw the ball to? These running backs look crusty. Like, what are we doing on the run game? So you see Cam Newton, he comes in there. He's positive vibes. You see him dancing on the field, dapping up all his players, giving everyone nicknames, just rejuvenating this offense, which, like you said, doesn't have a lot of skill players, or not a lot of great skill players. Not a lot of people that you can talk about. Damian Byrd, I don't know where the hell he came from. N'Keal Harry, first-round pick who wasn't looking too good last year. But Cam Newton, credit to him, he comes in here and he brings this offense back to life. He's running the ball. He's throwing it deep. maybe the games are a little bit closer than you expect them to be. Great play by that defense against the Raiders, so really close that game out. But I really like what this Patriots team is doing. Like you said, we'll have to see what they do against the Bills, but they could definitely win this. They could definitely win this division if Bill Belichick and this defense steps up and Cam Newton keeps on playing like how he's playing. Definitely could be you could be comeback player of the year this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything you just said. It seems like we both like the direction that this Patriots team's going with. And I think potentially this could be a long-term fit with Cam Newton, barring injury. Some people said they might try to run him into the ground and just get a one-year rental. But if this season goes well for them, then Cam Newton could be the quarterback there for the next 5 years at least.
Yep, most definitely. Okay, so let's move into my last overreaction, which is Matt Ryan, a.k.a. Matty Ice, does not deserve the moniker Matty Ice. So we always talk about ice in your veins, We're talking about, putting the needle in your veins. You got ice in there. You see D'Lo on the Brooklyn Nets. He has ice in his veins. You're talking about Curry. You're talking about all these great players. They got ice in their veins. Well, let me tell you something. Matt Ryan does not have ice in his veins. If you're talking about clutch in the late game situations, we look at that Super Bowl. You think he's clutch? No. You see him against the Cowboys. They have that giant lead. You think he comes up clutch? Hell no. Against the Chicago Bears, against Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, is he clutch? No. He does not deserve the nickname Matty Ice. He should be Matty Hot because he's just hot and shit out there.
So I'm going to have to disagree with you, Laraib. I think he completely deserves the moniker of Matty Ice because whenever clutch time comes around, he absolutely freezes and screws over his team. It just seems like all these close games or all these games where they have a lead going into the fourth quarter, it's almost Falcons fans are like, here we go again. And they're just anticipating the worst. I mean, does he not have great receivers around him? Calvin Ridley. Julio did not play in the last game, but he certainly played against the Cowboys. So you have these receivers, Russell Gage, who's showing up to be a solid wide receiver 3 for them. They got Todd Gurley. They're expecting big things from him. They have Ito Smith. They have Hayden Hurst from the Ravens last year. They have a wealth of offensive weapons, and they get these leads with those offensive weapons, and then Matt Ryan just forgets how he got those points in the first place and just throws the ball away. I mean, it was the kind of the epitome of everything we're talking about. Last play of the game, really the real last play of the game. After the Bears go down and take the lead, Matt Ryan completely overthrows Calvin Ridley, and it comes up with Deshaun Gibson coming down with the ball from the Bears, and that's game over. I mean, usually it comes down to the other team having heroics to come back with Matt Ryan falling short. But now it just shows you that even if Matt Ryan has a chance, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, Matt Ryan never has a chance to come back and, give them the lead again. He had a chance in this game against the Bears defense, which has been playing better this season. But still, you're in a position to come back and you just throw the game away. Nothing is more fitting for this Falcons team. They're finding new ways to lose. The first game, they just get outmatched by the Seahawks. The second game, miraculous comeback by the Cowboys, and Dak Prescott puts a bow on it. And in this game, miraculous comeback by the Bears, but it's Matt Ryan this time giving them, just making sure the Bears come out with that victory in the end. It's a disgrace. As a Saints fan, I absolutely love it. But Matty Ice, yeah, he can give the nickname, but people need to understand what the ice means. It's because he absolutely freezes and he looks frozen out there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how many points the Falcons score. They score 26 points through 3 quarters, and it's only 10 points to Chicago. So going into the fourth quarter, it's 26-10. Matt Ryan, why don't you just lay one out into the end zone, go up another touchdown. And, this running game, you saw Brian Hill, he had a nice 20-yard touchdown. But besides that, they really never got it going on Sunday. Todd Gurley, I don't understand why Todd Gurley is not taking the 20-yard run into the end zone and Brian Hill is. And Julio Jones is out, but Calvin Ridley, he's establishing himself as a wide receiver 1B to Julio 1A in this league. And then Russell Gage, I'm pretty sure he had a touchdown this weekend. So he has a lot of weapons on offense. The offensive line center Alex Mack starts all with him, setting the tone up front. So they have all the pieces, but Matt Ryan, we give him the moniker Matty Ice, but he just freezes. And the defense giving up 20 points in the fourth quarter. How does that happen again after what happened last week? This whole team is looking like a train wreck right now, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be they're fighting for the last spot in the NFC South. They're fighting for it. The last spot. Not the first one, the last one. They're fighting with the Carolina Panthers to see who can be the worst in that division.
And the Saints, but that's besides the point. How much longer does Dan Quinn have at the Falcons head coach, do you think?
Oh, my goodness. We're talking about this team. And this goes back to, the middle of last season. They're off to another bad start. But towards the back half, they have a nice little run. And, Dan Quinn gets to keep his job. But now they're 0-3. They blow two very big leads to very, mediocre teams. Cowboys are okay. But, you lose. You drop a game to the Bears after you're up 16 in the fourth quarter. So, Dan Quinn, let me look at this Falcons schedule coming up. Let's see. They play the Packers and then the Panthers and the Vikings and the Lions. So, the Packers, they're probably going to go 0-4, but they have some very nice, easy games coming up on their schedule. So, maybe they can make another run and Dan Quinn can keep his job a little bit longer and keep this Falcons franchise in mediocrity just a little bit longer.
Falcons fans, you better hope that they lose those games against the Lions and the Vikings because – let's be honest, Dan Quinn is not getting you to a Super Bowl again. You don't have Kyle Shanahan anymore. Let go. Just, petition to lose the games because if they have another resurgence because they want to keep their coach, you can't keep doing this, Atlanta, because you're just going to keep going 0-5 to start seasons and then, return it and finish 7-9 and then miss the playoffs again and again and again. When you have a very capable quarterback, we just – laid it in on him a bit, but he's a top 15 quarterback in this league, and you have good receiving options. You can't keep missing the playoffs, and it starts with the head coach, and his time has passed in Atlanta.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, you don't know how much he has left in the tank. He hasn't been playing bad by any means, but you saw how Drew Brees quickly has fallen off, how fast Peyton Manning fell off in the back of his career. So Falcons fans, maybe you have like a year or two left to make a quick run. But besides that, you need to start looking a little bit more towards the future. So let's move into our top 5 rankings.
So we through 3 weeks, we've seen every single team play football at least 3 times. So we have a good enough sample size to see where teams are, where teams are going. We have flexibility to change these throughout the year as well. But here are our top 5 teams. We'll start from 5 and go to 1 and compare as we go. So I'll start with my number 5 team. I talked to them about it a bit before, and I really like the direction they're going in. They've proven to me that they're a successful franchise, and that's the New England Patriots. Cam Newton at the helm. He looks like a Pro Bowl quarterback this season. He looks like the Cam of old, and he keeps proving time and time again that he is the right fit there in New England. So I really like the direction this team is going. The defense looks as good as it was last year. The offense looks a lot more dynamic, and we'll see what happens this next week going up against Kansas City. We'll see if they can cause some more troubles than the Ravens did.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit early to put them that high, but definitely you could see this team, seeing how their next couple of games play out. They could be a top 5 team in the NFL. But my top 5, I talked about it in my first overreaction, the Buffalo Bills. I have them below, 2 other AFC giants. But this Bills, like you said, maybe it's a little bit early. Haven't played too many great teams yet, but they're showing a lot of promise. Josh Allen, I think he's playing out of his mind right now. That defense with Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, they're playing very well at a high level. So I expect this Bills team to keep on climbing up my top 5.
Yeah, just with the Bills, like we talked about earlier, I like what I've seen from McDermott. But I need to see some more from Josh Allen, this offense going forward. I like the addition of Diggs, and Montgomery's been playing very well. So we're going to see how they keep going further on to the season. but I like the direction they're going in. I just need to see some more in order to put them in my top 5.
Yep. So you want to move on to your number 4 spot?
Let's do it to where you go 4, and then we'll kind of go serpentine
Okay.
with.
Okay. So with my number 4, I have them, a little bit lower than a lot of people, but I have the Seattle Seahawks at the number 4 spot. Russell Wilson, we've seen the type of season he's had so far. I really like how they're letting him cook this year. Hashtag let Russ cook. The offense are literally they're opening it up a whole bunch. Running game not as featured as it used to be in the Seattle offense. But my only issue is that defense. Secondary, they're giving up like 400 yards to Dak Prescott, 400 yards to Matt Ryan, almost 400 yards to Cam Newton. So this secondary is looking very suspect. But they came up big with that interception to win that game on a Sunday afternoon. But my only gripe is going to be this defensive line. Can they get some more pressure? And the secondary, can they get some more turnovers?
Yeah, so I agree with like where you have them. I have them just one spot higher, and I'll get into that. But for me, I have the Ravens at the 4th spot. They were my number 1 team going into this week. I just didn't like how it's another big spot for Lamar. He kind of finished out the game a bit better, but it's just whenever you're down in the game, can Lamar bring you back with his arm? We haven't seen that yet in 2 of his playoff games and against the games against the Chiefs so far. So these are really big questions for him going forward. He's so young as a quarterback, so I'm not putting anything on him personally. I think he will prove to be better as the course of the season goes along. But I've seen more, and I'll go straight into comparing these because what spot do you have the Ravens on your list?
My Ravens are going to come at the number 2 spot. They lost a little bit, or they lost pretty bad to the Chiefs on Monday night. But like we were talking about earlier, their defense is going to step up a little bit more. Look at film, and we know what type of team they are. So I expect them to play a little bit better, and that's why I have them at my number 2.
Yeah, I just some things on the defensive side that I saw against Patrick Mahomes, but certainly question marks going forward. So I'm going to keep them in my top 5. Let's see how they do next week against the football team. So it should be a get back game for them. So I like them a lot going forward. And then my number 3 spot, we talked about the Seahawks. I think you hit the nail right on the head with the analysis there. I think the offense, this is the best Seahawks offense they've ever had, quite frankly, in franchise history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but just the passing attack of this team with and Tyler Lockett just dominating on both sides of the ball or on both sides of the field. And then Chris Carson, he's going to miss the next 2 weeks, but he's still a dynamic running back. And then my MVP right now of the season, Russell Wilson, they look completely dynamic. And it just seems like every close game, Russell Wilson will pull you out of it. So whenever you have a quarterback and an offense like that, you have to have them in the top 5. The reason they're not in my top 2 slots is I just have way too many question marks about this defense. There were so many times in this game they could have put the Cowboys away, and then the Cowboys kept fighting and kept scratching. And the secondary looks very beat up at the moment. Defensive line is not getting much pressure. They got a little bit more pressure this week against the Cowboys, so I liked what I saw from them. Not Alden Smith. Just the pressure they were getting from their front 4 was good enough to get Dak Prescott off his foot a bit, and they held Zeke in check. But, you're still allowing the Cowboys to score 31 points, and at one point they had the lead in this game. So against a 1-2 Cowboys team, they're better than their record. I believe that. But you shouldn't be, late in the 4th quarter going down to a Cowboys team. So, but then I'm going to go straight into my number 2 slot, which I talked about earlier, is the Green Bay Packers. I really liked what I've seen with Aaron Rodgers in this offense, as I talked about. I mean, just receivers galore that they're finding. They don't have a definitive number 2. It just seems like they have like a pack of number 2 receivers with Lazard and Scantling, and along with, the superstar and Devontae Adams on the outside. But the thing this year is just the step up for Aaron Jones in this running game. If they can get that 2-dimensional attack going with Aaron Rodgers having a great season so far, I think they look like the second best team in the league. Questions defensively, yes, but you have just playmakers and on two sides of the defense with Jair Alexander and Zadarius Smith, who just make plays for this team and give them, a chance to win every single game they play in.
Yeah, I have the Packers on my 3 spot, not ahead of the Ravens and not ahead of the Chiefs. But I have to put them above the Seahawks because we know that defense, like you were saying, a lot of playmakers. Adrian Amos, secondary, at safety position. Jair Alexander at corner. The Smith brothers. I mean, they lost Blake Martin to the Giants, a tackling machine, led the NFL in tackles last season. But we still know that this Packers defense, if they need to, they can come up big and create some turnovers. And then offense side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. Although I believe they might be a little bit overhyped, but this is still a solid team. So let me jump into my number 2 spot, the Ravens. We talked about them already, but I think they're definitely a top 5 team in the league. Struggle a little bit on Monday night, but we know what they are and who they are and what that team is. So I have them at my number 2 spot.
Yeah, and then we'll just go straight into our number 1 spot, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. If there's any doubt, they're the best team in the NFL. We had concerns going into this game just about their offense didn't look that great. They looked a little unpolished, especially last week against the Chargers. In that front four getting pressure, the offensive line didn't look too sharp, but they responded amazingly against the Ravens. Their offensive line looked super sharp, picking up 5-6-man blitzes and allowing Patrick Mahomes to have enough time to just uncork bombs down the field to Hardman and Hill and Kelsey and all those receivers and threats they have, with Clyde in the backfield looking like a stud for Rookie of the Year candidate potentially. And then on the defensive end, that they got to Lamar Jackson. Chris Jones is probably the second best interior defensive lineman in the NFL, and how he's able just to get to Lamar, and he caused a fumble and just a lot of impact plays on third down. That's exactly what you need for a team that's going to be putting up a lot of points. And then you're going to need those teams who are coming back to try to, pass the ball down the field and match you with scoring. But when you have that dynamic defensive line threat who can stop you on those third and longs, it's going to prove a lot. It's going to be very fruitful for that Kansas City defense, along with, Tyrann Mathieu, Sorensen, and the playmakers they have on the defensive side of the ball. So very good performance from the Chiefs so far. We expect them to be contending, as long as Patrick Mahomes is back in the helm, and they are my number 1 team.
Yeah, definitely. The defense looked a lot better than I thought they would. Lamar Jackson didn't have 100 yards passing on the night. So that defense came up very big against the Ravens offense that we know. That can be very, high-powered with their 3 running backs and Mark Andrews and the 2 receivers and Marquise Brown and Willie Snead. But definitely, I don't think anyone doesn't have the Kansas City Chiefs as the number 1 team in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm just real quick, like the secondary. L'Jarius Sneed looks like a steal from the draft. He's been very good for them in the first few rounds. Yeah, there were some drop balls by the Ravens side and maybe some bad reads by Lamar. But overall, the secondary, which we thought would be the Achilles heel of this defense, has been proven to be pretty good so far with a lot of their young guys.
Yep. So
all right,
let's do our Thursday night prediction.
Yeah, let's go into real quick. Just a recap of some of the other games. We'll do like a 2 minutes to win it type of situation. We'll hit some of the games that we didn't get to. I'll go through and I'll get your thoughts real quick as we go through these. I'll set a 2-minute timer, and then right as I go, I'm just going to go game by game. You give me a quick 10-second synopsis, and we'll go on through. All right, you ready?
Oh, boy. Okay, here we go.
All right, and Texans Steelers.
Okay, Deshaun Watson gets back on track, throws 2 touchdowns, but the running game from the Steelers just takes over this game, and Big Ben goes back to his former self, and they win this game by a touchdown.
49ers Giants.
Literally exactly what we expected. The 49ers defense missing key pieces, but still comes up big. And then on that offense, they just ground and pound that ball. Or even though Nick Mullins had 300 passing yards, they still win that game by almost 30 points.
Titans Vikings.
Closer than I expected. Vikings had a chance to win that game, but Steven Gostkowski, after all his missed kicks, he comes back and he pushes his Titans team to 3-0.
All right, football team Browns.
This is also another one closer than I expected. Dwayne Haskins puts up the football team late or early in the fourth, but that Browns defense just gets too many takeaways, and Baker Mayfield just runs this ball down the football team's throat.
Panthers, Chargers.
Justin Herbert no longer my pick for, no. Justin Herbert is still my pick for
Oh,
rookie of the year, but his Panther. I mean, they didn't look too good. Keenan Allen had a great game, but props to Teddy Bridgewater, gets his first win as a Panther.
ooh. All right. Jets, Colts.
Colts defense, number one fantasy. Gave me, 20 plus points. Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there once again. Adam Gase is going to be gone in the next couple weeks from this Jets team.
A joke of a football team, definitely. Buccaneers, Broncos.
Broncos have no chance. Should not have been your pick of the week, but Tom Brady throws 3 touchdowns. Mike Evans goes 2 yards for 2 touchdowns, so good for him. Brady gets his second win as a Buccaneer. Broncos go down 0-3. Look for Brady to have another great game next week.
All right. And finally, Lions, Cardinals.
Surprising upset of the week by you, giving you the win. Kyler Murray throws 3 interceptions against a Lions defense, and I didn't think that was too good. Lions, Matt Stafford gets his first win. Maybe they make a little run in this NFC North.
All right. That was 1 minute and 48 seconds. Good stuff. Yeah. Just that was the recap of week 3 right there. A lot of good games, a lot of good storylines. But now we look forward to the Thursday night game of week 4.
Another
Absolute
powerhouse
classic.
matchup.
Everyone has been waiting for this one ever since last week's Thursday night game. Don't worry, after this week they will get better. But we are going to recap the Broncos going to MetLife to play against the New York Jets. Both these teams are 0-3. 2 of the worst offenses right now in the NFL. Not too bad defensively. Kind of middle of the pack. And Denver being the 20th ranked defense, New York being the 17th, which is a surprise to me. 2 of the worst passing and rushing offenses in the NFL. What are we looking at in this game, Rob? The line is they are even, so it's basically a pick 'em in essence for these 2 teams. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, 2 mediocre quarterbacks in Jeff Driscoll and Sam Darnold. But in this game, I'm definitely going to have to pick the better quarterback in the Jets. It's going to be a tough matchup for Sam Darnold against his Broncos team. But look for them to, run the ball a little bit with Frank Gore, and then hopefully Sam Darnold. Actually stop right there. No, I'm not going to make another boneheaded decision for my pick. I will be picking the Denver Broncos.
What? No, go with them.
No. That Denver defense is a lot better than this Jets offense, and they're going to run the ball with Melvin Gordon. And I'm not sure if Phil Lindsay's going to be back, but Jeff Driscoll, all he needs to do, just game manage and run the ball, and they can beat this sorry Jets team.
So I told myself going in, I was going to pick the opposite of who you were going to pick, regardless, just so we can make this interesting. But I cannot pick the Jets. I don't hate this team. I feel sorry for them. They're the worst football team in the league. If they win a game, it'll be this one because, man, the Broncos don't look good either. But at least the Broncos have held teams to under 30 points. And they had a close game against the Steelers last week, and they had a close game against, if Gostkowski doesn't make that last field goal, they beat the Titans. Yeah, they don't have Drew Lock. They have Driscoll starting. To be fair, I haven't watched much of either of these 2 teams. I watched Denver on Monday night, and they looked impressive to me. I think the best player on the field for both of these teams will be Bradley Chubb. And so I'm excited to see he's going to have a breakout game in this one. Him and Noah Fant, 2 dynamic athletes for the Broncos on both sides of the ball. So I like what I'm getting from them. I trust the special teams more that makes a difference in this one. And the Broncos, I like McManus as the kicker. And who's the punter for the Broncos? I'm forgetting his name, but
Is it Colquitt?
I think it's Colquitt. Yeah. So I like the special teams more. If they can, McManus can be used a lot in this game if they can just get down the field to get points. I think the Broncos defense can hold the Jets to some extent. But yeah, this will be a Thursday night game that's going on that you may or may not watch. If you don't necessarily blame you. But as a pick 'em, I'm going with the team that I trust more, and that's the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
Final score predictions. I'm gonna go Broncos 12, Jets 10. Absolute barn burner on the NFL Network.
I'm gonna have to go. I have to give them a little bit more respect. The Broncos are gonna go 17, and the Jets will score 10.
There you have it for our Broncos and Jets diehards out there. So thank you for coming to watch the Week 3 recap of the NFL week with me and Laraib here. Exciting Week 4 matchups across the board. We're going to have Patriots-Chiefs, which is going to headline it. A lot of other really good matchups. Seeing some of our predictions play out. We'll put out our predictions episode on Friday. It'll be available Thursday night. So thank you all for coming this far, and we'll see you on Friday.
Hey, see you, everyone. Have a great day.